Hi guys, welcome to another bowling review video. So today we have another video submitted by a fellow viewer. So as usual, for anyone who is watching from my YouTube, or whether you're from Instagram or any of my other social media, I'm not too active on TikTok. Couldn't find the time to produce TikTok videos for it. Because it involves some video editing and clipping, so I haven't had the time for it. But for my other social media platforms such as Instagram and Facebook, and YouTube, obviously, if you're interested to send in clips for me to review, yeah, it's free of charge to review a single video. The only condition is that you have to allow me to post the video onto YouTube just like this and my previous review videos as content, because generally for all this free content, I try to make it useful to try and help the general public, just to share my coaching knowledge as well. Okay, and obviously gets a little bit of publicity for my actual business, which is real like face-to-face coaching right in my country of Singapore. Okay, so anyway, this is Aaron Carino. Looks like he's from the States based on the the perfect English, the perfect English that he uses in his Facebook message to me. And so he's a one-hander, so which is a bit of different kind of videos from what I usually do, because I usually review two-handers. I'm not the a very great one-handed bowler as well, because most of my time is spent two-handed bowling, but I do know most of the some of the basics for one-handed bowling, and I'll try my best to give proper advice and help if it's possible. Obviously, you're free to disagree. If you disagree, you have different opinions, feel free to leave your comments in there so that maybe I can learn from your comments as well. Okay, so moving forward, we'll just play the video. So Aaron Carino is a one-hander. He mentioned that he actually wants to be competitive in the adult competitions and adult leagues. And as you can see, most of Aaron's fundamentals are pretty solid, right? So Aaron uses a 5-step approach. His stance is pretty well balanced, like he's rather upright. Balance arm not perfect. So let's just take a look at his finishing position first and foremost, right? So he's pretty smooth, like pretty fluid. So Aaron is definitely not new bowler per se. So balance arm isn't perfectly straight, and you can see him here. Let's see if I am able to I'm not able to zoom. Let's see if I'm able to zoom in at all. No, let's go to this. No, in this video view, I can't really zoom in. Yeah, I can't really zoom in this video player. But anyway, the thing is that for here, if you notice here, his hands isn't really relaxed per se, and he has this bend in his elbow. So that's not perfect. So ideally, you usually want your finishing position, you want your balance arm to be as straight and firm as possible, and having your wrist relaxed. So his bowling shoulders is lower than his non-bowling shoulders, which is good. So he has a little bit of shoulder tilt to the right, which is good as well. So this is actually generated when you open up your hips a little bit, and when you lean forward, you will naturally generate this shoulder tilt position to the right. So you create the gap in the body for your ball to swing. Excellent knee bend, right? Aaron looks to be pretty slender, in pretty good shape. So he has no problem with knee bend, excellent knee bend. His kind of the trailing leg is not perfect. Ideally, you would like to see Aaron extend the trailing leg a little bit more. Why so is because if you keep your trailing leg too bunched up behind you, when you start to apply a little bit of a more forward push on your downswing, which I'm going to suggest later, you're going to lose balance, because you need to have a more extended right leg, more extended trailing leg, in order to balance a huge amount of forces that's going to happen when you actually do a lot more in your bowling delivery on your downswing especially. So a bit more extension there will be good. So overall, Aaron is a pretty good bowler, and he's trying to get to be competitive. I don't know whether he's trying to compete with other PBA pros, maybe he wants to go into PBA regional, or just to score better in his adult leagues. But I think Aaron is struggling. He mentioned in his Facebook message to me that he's struggling with his axis rotation. So he is actually rather behind the ball here. One immediate thing I noticed is that here, Aaron has a big gap, right, from where the ball is landing during his release point near the foul line, and where his left feet is. So this big gap, right, actually reduces the amount of leverage and lift Aaron can actually impart in the ball. Ideally, you want the ball to be as close to your left feet as possible. So you want the gap to be as minimal as possible. Like it's right beside your left feet, but obviously not crashing into your left feet. You don't want it to hit your left ankle, but you want to be as close to your left ankle as possible so that you can have the maximum amount of leverage and lift. So as a proof of concept, you can actually experiment. I mean, you can simply prove it yourself by just lifting a heavy weight, maybe like a water bottle or something, right? Like put the water bottle far away from your left leg and try and lift it, compared to putting the water bottle very close to your left leg and lifting it, right? So the water bottle, obviously you want to be a little bit heavier, like maybe at least like 2 liters or 1.5 liters, so that it's a significant amount of weight. Then you can try lifting that water bottle from the base, from the bottom, lifting it close to your left feet or lifting it further away from your left feet. I'm sure, based on physics theory alone, because it's there's the conservation of moments. There's there's some physics theory behind where your fulcrum is, and if the weight is closer to your fulcrum, to your pivot point, the easier it is to lift the weight. So your fulcrum point in this case is actually our left feet here. So the closer the weight is here, right? So the closer your weight is to your fulcrum, which is the left feet here, the easier it is to lift the weight. So that is just physics in play there. So that's sort of the science behind bowling and lift. So you want it to be closer. And how you're gonna get to that stage. We're gonna talk about it a little bit later. So just gonna talk about the issues here. The other thing is that he's trying to get axis rotation. That's the thing. So he is actually quite behind the ball. He mentioned that he used to be more around the ball, like beside the ball, which is what the Americans used to describe their hand going on the outside of the ball instead of behind the ball. So he's trying to get behind the ball, but now that he's behind the ball, he's struggling with axis rotation. He finds that probably his shot rolls a little bit too straight, right? I can't really see his ball reaction here. He gets a strike. He plays a pretty tight line. Yeah, he's going down second arrow, so he gets a strike here. So I would actually think his axis rotation for this particular line is okay. But maybe if he wants to play he wants to be competitive in the tournaments or the major adult leagues, he has to play more inside lines. And if he wants to play more inside lines, like between second and third arrow or like the fourth arrow even, then he will need to have a lot more axis rotation on his shot. So we will get to that later in the video. So other than that, let's take a look at his ball speed. Yep, pretty decent ball speed. I like his ball speed there. He has a little bit of downward acceleration, which is around here. Yep, you can see that as the ball goes past, as it's starting to come down from the backswing, he accelerates the ball a little bit. Yeah, accelerates the swing a little bit, and it gives him good ball speed there. One thing I really don't like is you can see here how Aaron's backswing warps behind his back. So I believe this is, well, it's more a product of the ball placement. If you look at the ball placement, which is right here, right? Reverse it a bit. Okay, maybe you can go to this frame. Yep. So he places his ball to this direction, right? And to this direction, even if you have a super free swing, you will actually be swinging the ball behind your back here. So first and foremost is that Aaron is trying to play 10-10 straight down, right? So he has to actually try and fix. The first thing he has to fix is his ball placement direction. Ball placement is regularly called push away by our Western audience, by the Americans, and maybe even the Europeans as well, right? So you can call it the push away, but in Singapore here, we prefer to call it the ball placement, because we actually want to discourage the use of the term push away, because push away will kind of give the mental image of pushing the ball away from your body during the start, which you don't want. You want to place the ball halfway from, not the full length of your arm, maybe half the length of your arm, right in front of your body when you're doing the ball placement, the start of your swing. So Aaron is trying to play a straight up line here, but yet his ball placement, right, is going to the right. So first and foremost, he has to fix his ball placement, or push away, as most people like to call it, push away. So he has to fix his ball placement direction to place it in front of his body. That's one thing to fix. And he also has to relax a bit of his shoulders as well. So I think what Aaron is swinging here is like he's actually engaging. If I'm not wrong, I may be wrong here, but I think he's actually engaging his shoulder muscles to try and pull his arm swing a little bit higher, rather than having a fully relaxed shoulder and releasing all the tension in his shoulder and swing. So because when you actually engage your shoulder muscles, obviously if you try and like swing with your shoulder, you're gonna swing with he's like using his shoulder to swing, and he's using his upper body to swing as well. So you can see here. So in the West, especially in United States, I believe the coaches actually teach the bowlers to open up their shoulder, which is actually not a bad idea because it opens up the so-called, it lets the arm swing gets a little bit higher. It opens up the hips as well. And at the same time, they want that, the balance arm or the balance arm or non-bowling arm to be pointing straight ahead. In this case, I would suggest to have the trailing arm this way instead, so that to limit the amount of how wide his shoulders open, because actually Aaron isn't that, he's quite a slender guy, right? His hips isn't that wide, so I don't see the necessity of having his shoulders open up this much, whereby it warps his swing a little bit too far away from his target line. So maybe like have his balance arm pointing towards this direction. That means still pointing forward, but pointing towards more to the left instead of to his right. Right, pointing more towards the left. So to limit the amount of the amount, how do I put it in words? We don't want his shoulders to open up as much as this, right? Because when he's opening his shoulders so much, he's tending to swing the ball like warp behind his back. And you can see here, by opening up, Aaron's wrist, right, gets into a really weird position at the top of his swing. He's not the top of the ball. His wrist, if we were to look here, his wrist is actually like beside the ball. If you're looking at a clock face, his wrist is at 9 o'clock. His palm and his wrist is at 9 o'clock behind the ball, which doesn't help him to accelerate the ball. It creates a very weird turn. So when you have your wrist in the 9 o'clock position, you will actually tend to naturally try to rotate your wrist. Because if your wrist is here, as you come into the release point, right, it will be a natural tendency for you to rotate the wrist from 9 o'clock back to 3 o'clock before you release. So the solution so it will cause a lot of turn instead of getting behind the ball. So if Aaron wants to get behind the ball, this wrist position at the top of his swing is actually what's causing him to turn, because there are some forces and some forces generated here. Since you're twisting your arm in this way, when your swing goes downwards, right? When your swing goes downwards into the swing and into the release, you will tend to have your wrist would turn like clockwise. So your wrist and your palm will turn clockwise, and you'll get around the ball instead of getting behind the ball. So in order to eliminate that, you will have to probably do like one-step drills or like maybe three-step drills. Try and practice and have a lot of drills to practice getting his hand behind the ball at the top of the swing. On top or behind the ball at the top of his swing. So as he gets, then this also helps him to push the ball forward or accelerate the ball forward on the downswing as well. Because at this position, since his wrist is like beside the ball, there's no way for him to accelerate the ball when at the top of his swing, so to say. So then you can see that his wrist from here. So you can see his wrist turns around, right? His wrist goes from here to here. So you can see here his wrist is trying to turn. His wrist is trying to get into the side of the ball. That's because at the top of the ball, his wrist was like in the 9 o'clock position. So at the bottom of the release, his wrist will naturally try to get to 3 o'clock position. And he's like trying to fight it, right? He's trying to like consciously try to like fight his wrist from going to 3 o'clock position. So yeah, the reason why he's turning is probably like his is probably due to his backswing there, like due to him having that twisting backswing. So a few different factors that contributes to that twist is, one, his shoulders actually open up way too much during this position. So shoulders open way too much. Like this opening of shoulders is more useful for Americans who are a little bit wider body shape. They have very wide hips. Then they need this opening of the shoulder in order to like create space for the swing to come through. But for a slender guy like him, there's not much reason for him to do this. So this opening of the shoulder and like having the balance arm pointing to the left instead of the right is causing him to open up too much, and it's causing his wrist to go to the 3 o'clock position at the top of the swing. So we want to reduce this. Like his upper body, his shoulders should be like positioned like this. Then his non-balance arm should be pointing straight forward here, and his wrist should be at the top of the ball here during the top of the swing. Okay, so that should limit that. And if he does all that well, right, it should have a positive effect of keeping his release closer to his left leg upon release. Because right now, because of that weird opening of that so-called excessive opening of his excessive twisting of his upper body during the top of his swing, is causing him to like twist his whole body around during release, and he's placing his ball far away from his left leg, which is limiting the amount of his lift as well. Another part is that if he wants to be competitive and he wants to like increase his rev rate, so Aaron just has to practice a little bit of a little bit of bend in his elbow. So I think the best examples of bend would be elbow bend would be EJ Tackett, where he actually bends his elbow closer down to release. So but for the bowler, right, you don't think of consciously bending your elbow. Instead, what you want to do is just want to do some like finishing position drills or one step, or we call it no step drills, where you just get into this position at the foul line, the finishing position at the foul line, and you just do repeated drills just for the release, right? So for the release, you want to like swing the ball a little bit forward and back, just swing the ball a little bit forward and back, and then have your when you are close to the release, right, you try to get your fingers to the bottom half of the ball. So when you get to the fingers in the bottom half of the ball, and try to get under the ball and then lift up the ball during the release. So get under the ball and lift up the ball during release. So when you try to get under the ball, you're naturally, right, your elbow should start bending, because that's the so-called the easiest way for our hands to get under the ball. Because by using the elbow, by like bending your elbow a little bit, you will naturally get your fingers more under the ball, and then you can get better leverage that way. You can see a lot of Brad and Carl videos. I've actually linked it in one of my previous video. Brad and Carl, actually the famous YouTube channel for bowling. Actually, they do a lot of like no step drills and stuff like that. So, but no step drills, you don't have to look at the video to know it. You just basically need to get into your finishing position, get in position, hold the ball, and then just swing the ball gently front and back. Make sure you relax your elbow, and then your objective here is try to get under the ball and then lift up during release. So when you get under the ball, you build a habit of like bending your elbows a little bit close to the release point, and that's how you get the rev rate. That's how you get the rev rate and the rotation, and that's the rev rate and rotation would give you more power when your ball enters the pocket. So if it's the last point he's talking about will be the axis rotation. That means he wants his ball to like get to play a deeper line, and he wants his ball to come back from uh like this kind of a deeper line, right? Like fourth arrow and so on. So first and foremost, I want him to master the like getting the rev rate, getting the lift and all that. Once Aaron gets all the lift down during release, he gets the rotation, he gets his like hand behind the ball at the top of his swing, then he's able to get his fingers more underneath the ball during release. Then he can start to experiment a little bit with the like axis rotation and all that. Typically speaking, for axis rotation, let's see if I am able to maybe look at the Brad and Carl video. Because I would want to, because I will need like a sample like finishing position, like hand position upon release from a competent bowler to show. Yeah, we don't have a back view. Okay, let's see if I can find some release videos. Yeah, I'm gonna try and search for Carl Sherman's release. Let's see if we can have a back view of Carl Sherman's release. Because Carl Sherman's release is really, really good for a one-hander. Let's see if we have a back view. Yep, so I'm trying to look at Carl Sherman's release here. Let's put it. Let's see if there's a back view of this. Okay, but we don't get to see his fingers. Yeah, it is always side view though. No, ideally I want to see a back view. No. Hand position. Can we let's try and search Carl Sherman hand position. Let's see if we can find it. House bowling. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is a pretty good one. So I'm gonna play and pause it. Yes. So this freeze frame is pretty good. This freeze frame is pretty good. So can I zoom in? No. So for YouTube shots, we can't really zoom in. All right. So if you put attention to Carl Sherman's wrist position during the bottom of his swing, right? Bottom of his swing, right before his release, notice that his index finger is kind of spread out from his middle and ring finger. His middle and ring finger goes to the inside. So the secret here is actually having your index finger point straight down. So you need to position your wrist behind the ball. So for a bowler like our bowler here in question, right, which is for Aaron, right? So for Aaron who's trying to master to get axis rotation without no getting his hand to the outside, you want to practice this kind of wrist position, Carl Sherman's wrist position upon release, which is having the index finger, which is the second finger right beside your thumb, spread out from your middle finger and your ring finger while holding the ball, and then having the index finger, which is this same same second finger that's right beside the thumb, pointing downwards upon release. So when you point it downwards, the effect is that your ring finger and your middle finger will be on the inside, pointing to the inside of your left shoe, right? Because this is how our right hand is structured, right? Yeah, that means your fingers can't be anywhere else if your index finger is pointing downwards. So since your index finger is pointing downwards and your ring finger and middle finger is on the inside of the ball, when you release, right, you will naturally generate the axis rotation that you want. Because when you release, you will be rotating the ball from here to here, right? You will be rotating the ball this way upon release. If you look at this rotation angle as Carl Sherman releases forward, he will generate that so-called that PBA release. Yep. Then you will get the axis rotation. So just like how I drew my arrow here, he gets this axis rotation this way. He gets this axis rotation this way. Just by the position of his fingers during the release. So he still gets his palm perfectly behind the ball, but the secret is actually the index finger. So you want to have your index finger pointing straight down, like at the 6 o'clock position, behind the ball, and then you just want to follow through upwards, right? So you want to follow through upwards with your wrist, and you don't have to worry about turning at all. So when you follow through upwards, your wrist and hand should naturally turn as you release the ball. Or at most, you turn a little bit, get the wrist in the 5 o'clock position, and just focus on the follow through upwards. Because you want to focus on generating the revolution, getting the lift instead of the turn. So I hope that explains it well. And the final part, obviously, I want to add to Aaron's game is that if he's able to get his wrist in this position, right? If he's able to get his wrist at the top of the ball, so then I want him to accelerate the ball forward during his downswing. So by accelerating the ball forward, like by using a little bit of his, a little bit engaging a bit of his shoulder muscles and his palm muscles as well, to like accelerate and push the ball forward. So accelerate the ball downwards and push the ball forward. You will get a more dynamic release, and you also increase your rev rate because your downswing goes faster, and your fingers actually will go through the ball faster as well. But obviously, I would advise him to do this acceleration only after he masters that hand position, the Carl Sherman hand position, right? At the bottom of his release by doing like finishing position drills and all that. And only when he's able to like fix his the top of his swing to get his wrist at the top of the ball during his the top of his backswing, because obviously his wrist has to be behind the ball, on top and behind the ball, if he wants to accelerate the ball forward. Because in the position that he's in now in his swing, it's impossible for him to accelerate the ball, because if he pulls on the ball downwards now, it's just going to hang on his fingers and he will lose control of the ball as he accelerates it forward. Okay, so that's it for today's review video. So today is review for one-hander. I hope it helps Aaron, and I hope it helps the one-handers out there. So for Aaron, as well as any of the other one-handed bowlers, if you have any further questions, feel free to post into the YouTube comments. And as well, you can contact me via my Facebook group. You can contact me via Instagram if you'd like to send me clips for review, like videos of your own bowling for review, having back view as well as side view. That means the view from your right hand side to check your timing. That will be best, right? So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys next time.